They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, which oftentimes is true. Cliche, sure, but sometimes there's no better way to tell a story than with a good photo. There are details and minutiae that might not get picked up otherwise, hidden in all sorts of pictures. A sidelong glance, a hand placed a certain way, things always going on in the background. If you can't get the whole story in writing, then a picture might help fill in the gaps. However, some pictures are the story. As life becomes more closely documented these days, it's often fascinating to go back and see what images were captured before it was so easy as pulling your phone out. People lived their lives differently back then as well, leading to situations so awful they're hard to imagine. The relative rarity of earlier photographs paired with genuinely chilling stories lead to some of the most lasting images of all time. Some pictures will stay scorched into your brain forever. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're taking a look at the top 5 horrifying pictures from history. Take a deep breath and get your brain scrubber ready, because these are some wicked creepy pictures that are hard to forget. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more photographic frenzies. Perfect. Let's begin. Kicking us off at number 5, we have Blanche Meunier. This image was taken shortly after the discovery of a woman trapped in a room for over 25 years. 25. Half of her entire life spent in one room. This was no accident either. Also known as the confined woman of Poitiers, Blanche was secretly locked in a small room by her status-obsessed mother. In 1874, when Blanche was 25, she wanted to marry an older lawyer. Being from a bourgeois family of old noble origins, her mother would not accept this. In order to keep her daughter away from marrying a supposedly penniless lawyer, she locked her in a dark room in the attic of their home. The family continued on living their daily lives, pretending to mourn the death of their captive sister. Imagine that, living out your life full well knowing that your poor sibling was tied to a bed upstairs, wasting away. Good lord. In 1901, an anonymous writer sent a letter to the Paris Attorney General letting them know about the spinster locked up in Madame Meunier's house. When discovered, Blanche was emaciated and filthy. According to some sources, she had not seen sunlight since being locked up. Living in her own filth, she was barely 25 kilograms. Imagine the sloth killing from David Fincher's Seven, and you'll start to understand what this was like. The police reported that she had been lying completely naked on a rotten straw mattress, covered in a crust of excrement, meat, vegetables, fish, and rotten bread. The stench was so terrible they had to suspend the initial investigation and come back later to look further. The mother was arrested and died 15 days later. She knew exactly what she was doing, but didn't expect to be caught. Good riddance. Coming in at number 4, we have Leonid Aghazov. While on an expedition to the Antarctic, Russian surgeon Leonid Aghazov started to feel awful. He was always tired, felt weak often, and couldn't shake a case of nausea. When he developed a sharp pain in his side, the medicine man knew what was happening. He had appendicitis. If left untreated, the swollen organ would kill him. Knowing they were far from civilization, Aghazov made the ghastly realization that he was the only person on this expedition capable of performing surgery. He wanted to live, and if the doctor died in an expedition, the others would be in great danger. So he did what most medical professionals consider impossible. He performed an auto-appendectomy. He gathered some assistants, prepped his instruments, and began the procedure. If he were to lose consciousness, the helpers were instructed to inject him with adrenaline so he could keep going. Because of the nature of self-surgery, he couldn't apply a general anesthetic. It would just cloud his mind and limit his abilities. So he had to cut into himself and deal with that pain. Once past the abdominal wall, he had to move his intestines out of the way and remove his appendix with no other pain relief. In the end, the surgery was a success. The image of the procedure underway is haunting to say the least, with Aghazov's open abdomen on full display. He actually performed much of the operation by touch, as the mirror he had planned on using to look inside ended up being more hindrance than help. Yikes. Coming in at number 3, we have a frozen Soviet soldier. This looks like an actual nightmare, like big The Shining vibes for sure. The story here is just as scary as the photo. In 1939, Finnish defenders would sometimes take fallen, frozen Russian soldiers and place them in the field, almost like human scarecrows. This photo is an example of that practice in action. The hope was that the frozen body would be seen as a guard on patrol and other soldiers would avoid that area. If they got close enough to see the reality of the situation though, these soldiers would be in for a scare. Some claim this is a form of psychological warfare, while others say it was just another deterrent. The Finns, defending land against almost 1 million Russians, had to fight guerrilla style style in the Winter War. Being one of the coldest Finnish winters ever recorded, the cold caused massive losses. The amount of soldiers who froze to death is unknown, but we can see what the cold can do to a body in this picture. Not a way that anyone would want to go. Coming in at number 2, the smiling mad bomber. George Peter Metesky terrorized New York City for over a decade in the 40s and 50s by planting homemade explosives in all sorts of public places. He planted over 30 bombs, with 22 of them actually going off and injuring over a dozen people. The last thing you would want to see from such a violent and terrifying person is a goofy grin, but unfortunately that's exactly what we got. Following an investigation that made use of an early form of profiling, Metesky was put behind bars. The image captured of him smiling out at the photographer has horrified people ever since. And lastly, at number 1, we've got John Irving Bentleys Leg. Just take a look at this picture and try to explain what happened. It doesn't make too much sense, does it? One human leg, slippers still attached, sticking out of a burned hole in the bathroom. His remains were discovered by meter reader John Gosnell, who had let himself into the house to check the meter in the basement. He smelled something odd and noticed a strange smoke, so he went upstairs to investigate. There he found the leg with the rest of Bentley's body reduced to ashes. There are many theories as to how this happened, with various explanations as to how the fire burned out without spreading further. The most popular cause of death is alleged spontaneous human combustion, fire without an apparent external source of ignition. Other explanations point to Bentley keeping matches on his person and wearing flammable clothing, but these theories have never been confirmed. Either way, it's hard to imagine what would cause a fire intense enough to burn a man down to nothing while staying controlled in one area. I don't want to go out on a limb here, but something doesn't seem right. Oh boy. And there you have it. 5 photos, 5 hard to believe stories. That's just a quick look too. There are plenty of resources out there on the World Wide Web that give plenty more context. What do you think? Are these photos just as haunting as I built them up to be? What are some of your favorite horrifying historical pictures? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's have a look at some of your more picturesque ones from top 5 dumbest horror movie plots that make no sense. Mr. Taz says, sometimes dumb is better than smart. Quote of the year. I'm glad that one stuck out, it's how I feel most days. James Cashat says, The Stuff and Deathbed are classics. Rented them from a video store long ago. Classics for sure. I'd watch them any day of the week. Definitely on the dumber end of the entertainment spectrum though. And shoot_me please says 3rd. Congratulations. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.